Sounds convoluted, but trust me.
You just heard a personal lesson that is worth millions in industry. As a matter of fact, most of the major companies that make millions in this city are called integrators. They take the products and the work of other companies and they make an integrated product that they then sell to the military. The skill of integration of knowledge, or now called knowledge management, is PhD level stuff. You just heard a great example of lesson learned through it. I would offer that it's something to stick in your wheel book or your back of your head. Pay attention to what you're hearing and try and weave it into whole cloth. The British have a nice term for this called weaving the tapestry of the situation, which I think is pretty arty. Sort of sticks in my mind a little bit. But the point is that you have to make whole cloth out of what everybody else is doing. You don't just get it with the vertical or the horizontal strands. We're down to one last round, and it's the payoff number for everybody. And it's the question that came up most in your questions. And that's simply, what's the one piece of advice you'd like to give to people who are about to be commissioned? I'm going to start on this end and we'll work straight down to the other end, ma'am.
Gosh, there's a lot that I would try to tell Ensign Christie as she was reporting to her first ship, but I think two things. Be yourself. Take who you are with you, because everyone wants someone who's genuine, and don't let your expectations ruin your reality. And what I mean by that is there are going to be crappy commands, boring jobs, terrible situations, or awesome, whatever it is. But your attitude in those situations is everything. And you can turn a bad experience into a pretty amazing one. And you can lead your sailors or Marines or airmen, soldiers. I'm not very joint. But just don't put yourself first. It's not about you. And have a good attitude, work hard. You guys are going to do some pretty awesome things.
Major Jepson.
So I have two things also. The first one, we've hit on it already, is that inescapable accountability. So much of this job is just being there, being at the right place at the right time, and being ready for the task that you need to execute or perform. If you can do that, then you can fake the rest of it. Okay. Just be where you are supposed to be at the right time, and you will be off to a really good start. The second thing that I've seen, in 11 years, and I've been all over the world. I'm not as well traveled as Navy, and I'm super envious that you guys get to go everywhere. But is that even though you're serving, don't put your life on hold as a result of that. Too often I go places and I see soldiers and my peers who they do the same thing every single weekend. They get drunk with their friends or their family, or they play Xbox and they never leave their barracks room. They're in a foreign country and they only want McDonald's. It is, I think it's a shame. You
really start craving McDonald's after a while of this. Sorry.
You've eaten the artichoke.
You're right. But don't go there all the time. So you'll be afforded tons of opportunities, and you have yourself to blame if at the end of that assignment you look back and you realize, oh, I never went anywhere. I never did anything new. So just take what you can, take the time that you have, and go out and explore and experience new things. It's not a bad thing to be uncomfortable once in a while. Go try new things while you're out there.
Captain Miguel?
Yeah, I'd say two things. So first of all, I'd say play to your strengths. So you're going to go out there, and me, I've been trained in the aviation side, but now I'm in charge of 50 aircraft maintainers, and I don't know anything about fixing F-18s. I'm not going to lie. I don't. I was not trained. I didn't go to those schools. So what I can offer them, though, is when they're up for promotion or when they are up for an award, like helping them use your writing skills, use your skills that you've acquired being an adult and having gone through college in order to facilitate their success, even to the point of one of my guys wanted to buy a car. I'm like, you don't need to buy a brand new $30,000 car. It's going to lose a quarter of its value as you drive it off the lot. Why don't we look at CarMax and see one with 6,000 to 8,000 miles on it? Life skills, little simple things like that can actually go a long way. Second thing I'm going to combine two, it's first, be humble and don't be a douche. So be humble. For being humble, like I said, you're not going to know all these things. Just be receptive, be open to it, be open to, acquiring new skills and new experiences there, and then don't be a douche. You could be a lot of things, but you could be incompetent and still succeed. You could almost be lazy and still succeed, at least as a junior officer. However, if you are one of those things and you are also a douche, you're not going to last very long at all. So, all that to say, just like you said, be yourself, but be humble, and then be receptive and be a people person. Otherwise, things will not go well.
So I'm going to do 2 points too. The first I would say is, I kind of hit on it earlier, but I want to drive it home, is to make sure that you know that you're allowed to ask questions. And that's very important because you're not alone and unafraid. You have sailors that work for you. You have peers. You have your seniors, you have textbooks, you have manuals, you have all of these things that you can go to try and find the answer. And so if you don't know it, don't be afraid to say that I don't know. It's very important because people that don't understand the difference between what they do know and what they don't know get someone killed. And then the second thing I will say is don't be afraid to fail because you're going to do it. There's not a single person in this room that can raise their hand and say they've never failed. So don't be afraid to try and volunteer for something that you've never done before, or learn something that you haven't learned before. Don't be afraid to fail, and try to expand your level of knowledge.
Okay, one of the special operations truths is humans are more important than hardware. And that pretty much speaks for itself, and it's not just one, small area of the military or even life, but that applies everywhere. Your people are more important than your equipment, than more often than not your job that you're doing at that moment. Obviously, there's caveats to that, but humans are more important than hardware. Acceptance. So, how many people in here are from San Diego? Wow. Okay, so about half the room. But a lot of other people are from all different types of backgrounds, everything like that. Your morals are different than someone else's morals. Your political values are different than others. So don't go in assuming things like, everyone's going to be comfortable with the same topic, or everyone's going to be comfortable with the same viewpoint on discipline, things like that. And then more on a softer note, I would say find a senior enlisted leader that is in your unit in some form, probably your E8s or your E9s, and if they like having a little bit of beer at the end of the day, buy a six-pack and learn everything you can from them, because they got to that position more often than not for good reasons. They're a wealth of knowledge, and you're not the first, second lieutenant, or ensign, or even first lieutenant. When you PCS, you're not the first one that they've come around, and they've seen what works and what doesn't. So take what you can from them. They're really a huge resource for you.
Okay, so in wrap-up, let me see if I can. I've been writing rather feverishly here. Know your people. That means spend time with your people. That doesn't mean send emails to your people. That means go sweat and be miserable with them. You heard caring leader. Caring leader always puts his people or her people first. Yourself second or last. It's your role. It comes with the bars. Dealing with failure. For yourself, fess up. You heard that. Own it. For your people, there's a judgment call. When somebody lets you down, it's usually for one of two reasons, maybe three. The first is you have to determine, is this an attitude problem or a training problem? If it's a training problem, you know what you got to do, train them. If it's an attitude problem, you have to ask yourself, is it a long-term attitude problem, or did some crisis happen in this individual's life that's distracting him? In either case, you got to deal with it. If it's a crisis of a transient nature but serious, like one of the family, like Lieutenant Melendez, his fellow that had to get off watch, okay, you know what to do with that. Long-term attitude problems are long-term problems. You may not be able to fix them, but you got to try. Your job to try, and then to judge. But always get a second opinion.